Good morning, everyone. My name's Jennifer Hutchins. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Association of Nonprofits, and welcome to MANP Connects. It's October 2023. It's a beautiful day out there for now. I know rain might be coming, but I'm really excited about being able to live in a beautiful state where I'm going to go do some leaf peeping this weekend. So I hope you're gearing up to be able to enjoy some of that beautiful nature as well. I'm really excited about our topic today. But first, I want to give a special shout out to our long-term partner, friends, colleagues, a sponsor, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. They've been through us through the thick and thin since when we launched MANP Connects back in April 2020 as a response to getting connected to all of you as quickly as we can during the pandemic and the lockdown. And so we're really grateful to everybody at Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare for their support of MANP and the nonprofit community at large. Today's program I'm really excited about because first of all, the three people I'm going to be introducing you to are doing some really cool things in their community. And specifically, the common thread that they have is innovative shared space. Now, shared space is something that comes up a lot in the nonprofit community. I was first introduced to the concept in that idea of what can nonprofits do together in order to make sure that their precious resources go more directly to their mission, and maybe there's ways that they can share space. And so people talked about that. Prior to MANP, I was also really engaged in the creative economic development community here in Maine. And the creative economy has talked for a couple of decades now about the benefits of co-working space for creatives in particular. And it really took off about 20 years ago. I've been in Portland long enough to know Portland prior to the co-working spaces we have. And so I've been talking to a lot of people over the years about shared space and the benefits of people coming together, not just to save resources, but also to benefit from each other's creativity, innovation, and just communal support, right? Sometimes it can just be nice to know that there are other organizations that are going, right? That's what MANP Connects is all about, is finding out that you're not alone in all of this, and shared space can be part of that. So we invited three organizations that are doing some really cool things in that regard, and I'm excited to get into the details with them. I do encourage you to stick around. If you haven't been to MANP Connects before, I want to let you know that our tradition is to stay really close to our time frame of 9:45 so that y'all can get out and to your Friday as quickly as possible. And so that's what we're going to do. I was going to say something. Oh, right. But I want you to stick around because we're going to talk to the three people. And then I want to tell you a little bit about a service that MANP is doing around shared space. And so I want to make sure you know about that service. And then I want to talk a little bit about our plans for December and all the exciting things that are happening for our first MANP Connects Live. So anyway, okay. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first guest. This is Hannah Chatalbash. She is with the Mid-Coast Hunger Prevention Program. Hannah, are you with us this morning? Hi.
Hi, I'm here.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I am envious of your background.
Yeah, thank you. Our communications coordinator put this thing together. I think it's
I was
pretty
going to
snazzy.
say, you must have a fancy communications department.
Yeah, she works a whole 12 hours a week.
Oh, really? Wow. Lucky you. So everybody, Hannah is, as I said, at Mid-Coast Hunger Prevention, and we've invited her here because they have this really cool community kitchen program that's going on. But I'm going to launch right in and ask you to tell us, Hannah, about the community kitchen and how did that come to be? And yeah, tell us all the things. We want to learn more.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So, yeah, the community kitchen. So first and foremost, MCHPP, if you don't know us, is a nonprofit hunger relief organization. We're located in Brunswick, but we serve a pretty wide swath of the Mid-Coast Maine area. We had been a partner and collaborator with the Merry Meeting Food Council for a number of years. We participate in their steering committee and in supporting their work. And through that partnership, we had heard for years and years about a need for a shared kitchen space, a shared processing space. We were hearing from farmers that they needed access to that, other nonprofit groups needed access to that. There was a real desire for a space to be able to have cooking classes and other educational opportunities, but the space didn't exist. Kitchens are pretty expensive to get off the ground. They require a significant amount of upfront infrastructure, and there's a lot of cost associated with that. Additionally, most of the commercial kitchens that already exist are fully used, including the one that MCHPP has had historically, which we use to run our soup kitchen 6 days a week. They're just not available. So when MCHPP, we experienced really significant growth through the pandemic, and we were prepared, we were in a position to expand our facility to a second building here in Brunswick. And so when we were doing that, one of our top priorities was a second commercial kitchen, and one that could be used not only for our own internal processing purposes, but as a shared space. And so we've been running that for just a little over a year now. We just came out of what we consider to be our pilot phase, our building year. And the community kitchen serves 3 primary purposes. The first is for internal processing for MCHPP. It allows us to extend the lifespan of the local Maine produce season and provide locally grown products for our food pantry and soup kitchen guests year-round. The second priority is providing space for farmers to create value-added product for their farms. So taking their raw produce, bringing it into our space and turning it into the salsas and spreads and other products that we love to see at the farmers market, which they can either do themselves or MCHPP can co-pack for them. And then the third piece, which has been really exciting to see take off over the last year, is that we created a sliding scale rentable structure so that other businesses and nonprofits and community groups can come in and use the kitchen space on an hourly basis at a really affordable rate. The sliding scale prioritizes businesses that are led or primarily support BIPOC communities. It also supports nonprofits, small nonprofits, and particularly those that are serving marginalized communities as well. So it's been really amazing to see this kind of mix of for-profits and nonprofits and community groups coming together in this space and doing all sorts of different food-related work, but work that all lifts up the food system and creates a more sustainable, just food system within the larger community.
Hannah, I'm just so impressed with all of that. Can you tell us a little bit about your trajectory? How did you, think a little bit about the people on this call who might be like, oh my gosh, I want one of those in my community, or can you talk a little bit about the thought process and how did you go? One of my questions in particular is, were you hesitant at all about sort of the term we use traditionally around mission creep, and to what extent did Mid-Coast Hunger think about what it would be like to partner with organizations or businesses that were certainly adjacent to what you do, but not completely dedicated to it? So I'm just curious about internally how you went about coming up with this vision and implementing it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I think what we try to focus on with this program, first of all, we wouldn't have developed the community kitchen if we didn't need it for our own internal pantry and kitchen resources.
Which is key, right? Right. It was driven by an internal need that you had first.
Right. But we recognize that we have this beautiful outfitted kitchen, which we got grant funded. Another piece. A lot of the pilot year was grant funded. But once you've built it, we were only actually using it for internal processing probably 3 hours a day. That left a really significant amount of time that this incredibly valuable resource was sitting unused. And that doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with our organization. And at the same time, we were very aware that there was this need in the community. People were begging for access to a space like this. So all we needed to do was invest the time and energy to develop the infrastructure that made it accessible for people, to develop the contract for kitchen renters, to develop safety protocols around the space, we signed on for a specific shared kitchen software package that allows renters to self-schedule for the space. So we had to do that work and develop that in the pilot year. We have a fabulous coordinator for the program who's done some amazing work in that. But I would say if there weren't an aspect of the community kitchen that were really closely tied to our mission, I don't know that we would have gone forward with it. But we also do recognize that part of the reason that MCHPP exists is because the food system as a whole is broken. And if we ever want to get to a place where the food system is not broken, then we have to be able to invest in more innovative solutions that help lift up the whole food system.
Absolutely. Hats off to you. It's such a perfect example of what we're learning at MANP, but what we really firmly believe at MANP is that it is an ecosystem of care, right? And so by thinking that all Mid-Coast does is get food to people who need it, it's a really short-sighted way of thinking about it. And so all the work that you're doing is so clearly obvious to me that you're taking a much more holistic view of the issues. And so it's really, really fabulous. Did you find that did you have a funder who was really with you and saw the vision with you in that first pilot year? Was it challenging to convince a funder to support this idea? And then other question was, you said that there was clearly a demand. Did you actually do any formal surveying, or was that more just an anecdotal, you were pretty confident if we build it, they will come?
So far, funding for this kitchen has not been a challenge, which has been really lovely. So far, I think the vision has been something that resonates with funders, and we're currently in the process of attempting to seek some federal funding for this program to be able to keep it sustained in the long term. Community kitchens it's not a viable for-profit business. Don't go out and try to run one to make a profit. But we went into this with our eyes wide open about what we thought it was and how much money we thought it could earn, and that we knew that it was going to need to be supported in the long term by MCHPP's operating budget, and we were prepared to make that commitment. And sorry, the second half of your question?
Oh, I was curious about I completely forgot.
I don't know. Anyone remember the second half of the question?
Well, anyway, we'll come back to that. It was a long night. I just want to say right now, I had a rough night. My colleague Kelly made the original connection with you, and it sounds to me that you might have some good stories about the kitchen. Do you have a fun story to tell a little bit? Because it's also a community space, right? And so you're also doing very specific mission related, but I'm suspecting that there may be some fun things you've learned about opening up a space that's inviting in other people and other groups.
Yeah, it's been really exciting to see. I think one of the best aspects of the kitchen is getting to work in a space where we have volunteers of MCHPP and staff of our organization and these for-profit renters who are trying to get small startup food businesses off the ground, all working in the same space and learning from each other and sharing experience with one another. So we recently had a very, very cool project where we took gleaned cabbage. So we have a gleaning program. So we took gleaned cabbage from a local farm and locally donated ground pork from Wolf's Neck Farm, which got donated to our food bank. And then a for-profit renter worked with a volunteer soup kitchen chef to create wonton noodles from scratch. And then they taught an entire group of volunteers how to make pork and vegetable dumplings from scratch. They put 800 of those in the freezer, and then they'll be served as a soup kitchen meal out of MCHPP later this winter as a way to continue to incorporate local food. But it was just such a cool moment of businesses and people from all different sectors coming together to make this meal that then gets to feed people who otherwise wouldn't have access to this quality of food necessarily. So that's just been really amazing to see. And then secondarily, since we're coming up on Halloween, if you ever really want to make your kitchen look really gruesome, just process beets at a large scale. And it will look like there was a massacre. So it's just
Thank you for that tip.
Yeah, hot tip.
I I really appreciate that. And maybe even a little healthy in the process.
Yeah, delicious and also disgusting looking at the same time. It's a win-win.
This is really great. I really appreciate it. I'm grateful for my network. I was reminded what my question was. How did you determine demand for the kitchen? Was it anecdotal, or did you, I'm just curious if you actually did any kind of formal surveying or to get a sense.
The Food Council did formal surveying. So we didn't directly, but our partner, the Mayor Meeting Food Council, did, and we continue to do that. So we actually just recently did a pretty extensive farmer survey to see what interest there would be in additional co-packing services within MCHPP. So kind of constantly doing some of that, but the anecdotal evidence is there as well.
Any last minute, I know it's such a short time that we have to talk with you, Hannah. I appreciate you coming on this morning. Any last minute tips beyond the, I mean, I don't know, you sort of dropped the mic with the beet tip, but maybe a little bit more seriously, if people are curious about shared space, can you think of like 1 or 2 tips you would want to leave them with before you go this morning?
I would just say, like I said earlier, certainly go in with both eyes wide open, because there are hidden costs associated with everything. Nothing is as cheap or as free or as easy as you would anticipate. But if you go into this format and this partnership with eyes wide open and recognizing how much value you can get, there's just so much great opportunity and so much learning that can come from this shared space and the collaboration that can come out of a shared space.
That's great. Thanks, Hannah. And if anybody is looking for a space like yours, can they reach out to you or someone at the program?
Yeah, certainly they can check out our website. Anyone who's interested in renting the kitchen, there's a link right on there where you can fill out a web form, or certainly email me or our community kitchen coordinator.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, maybe
me.
next year you guys should you could have a fundraiser and open up the kitchen as a haunted house or something.
Ooh, good plan. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know about the liability. I am not a lawyer is the disclaimer. Thank you, Hannah. We really appreciate you coming on. Great work. It's really inspiring. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. The next person I'm going to have on is Megan Shapiro-Ross. She's with Footprints Food Pantry and the Mainspring Collective. And I am excited to talk with Megan. How are you this morning, Megan?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. So tell us about Footprints and what regions you serve, and tell us a little bit about this creating a shared space and what got you to make the leap to something like that.
Sure. So Footprints was founded in '92, like most food pantries were, where a community of individuals saw a need and put together a food pantry. And they existed that way, as most traditional food pantries do, on an all-volunteer basis until 2020. And the board of directors decided that it was time to hire an executive director in a paid position in order to really grow our programs, root our philosophy, and look at how to solve food insecurity. And that's when I came in, which was a super exciting time, not so much with COVID, but just with that blank slate of like really looking at how to solve food insecurity. And full disclosure, I am a complete dork and study food insecurity and
Me
poverty.
too.
Perfect. Good company. So in my free time, I read about poverty and the history of poverty all the way back to like the earliest forms of social welfare from the Old Testament. And it's just, it's a remarkable study, really. And looking at that, we started discussing like, what do we need to do? And what we need to do is reduce the stigma, the barriers, and increase the access to food. And with a lot of help from Good Shepherd, who has been an incredible partner to us, we adopted an abundance mentality where individuals can shop as many times a week as they want and take as much food as they want. And it has been an incredible model. And we've, so many food pantries operate on a scarcity mentality, which I think the easiest manner to understand the scarcity mentality is a a recent description of the toilet paper fiasco of COVID, where toilet paper was this scarce item and individuals, regardless of income level, stockpiled toilet paper. At least my husband did. And he hates when I say that, but he did. And it was like this competitive, search for toilet paper, and people stockpiled it. And to me, that's what food pantries have been doing to individuals for decades, is you have 1 box of pasta per family, 2 boxes of, cereal, 1 jar of tomato sauce. And it creates a competitive, uncomfortable, scarce mentality. So we've been super excited about switching to that abundance mentality, and are just drafting our nutrition security policy, looking at where we're spending our funds on food as medicine. So that's been an exciting piece of Footprints. We're really kind of growing more quickly than we thought we would. We've put in this year alone a pet food pantry to support individuals with who are pet owners and also living on a low income. We have a spice shelf program, which is through Penzies Spices, to support our meal kits. And our meal kit program is like a Blue Apron type of thing. We don't have a kitchen yet, but we very much hope to, like Hannah, at some point. And I just wrote Penzies. If you don't know Penzies Spices, they are like the Ben & Jerry's of spices. So it's been a super exciting program for us. I just wrote them a tax receipt this year, and they've donated over $23,000 in spices to Footprints in our spice program. And then meeting the needs, we've installed older resident pantries at senior housing complexes. We've increased our deliveries, and we have a community support fund just to support those unexpected expenses that might put a family into crisis, which has been a really great program for us. So we used to be Kittery and Elliott only. We are now a regional food pantry. We are seeing individuals throughout Southern New York County. We really are trying to, eradicate those geographic town lines and support anyone who walks through our doors. Did I answer all the parts of your question?
You got it. So tell us about Mainspring and how you guys got to a shared space model.
So that's an exciting and kind of a stars aligned answer to that question. Is in my dorkiness of studying food insecurity, I had said to the board when they hired me, like, I don't think I can just hand out food for the next 20 years. I know it's not going to solve food insecurity, and here's why. I'm not sure they needed the here's why, but the here's why was, since 1935, when FDR put into place all the food assistance programs, the federal surplus program, the TANF program, they are the same programs we're using today. And we have like the most incredible food pantry and food prevention, hunger prevention programs and food banks across the nation. And yet the rate of food insecurity continues to grow every single year. And so to me, it was, all right, well, food insecurity can't really be about food. We have tons of food in this country. It's about people accessing food. And I don't want to hand out food for the next 300 years and continue to have the rates of food insecurity grow. So at the same time as I'm myopically thinking about food insecurity, Emily Flinkstrom of Fairtide, who is Fairtide's an agency based in Kittery who moves individuals from homelessness into permanent housing. She and I work closely together because we're constantly on the phone. Food pantries, as anyone out there who knows, who runs one, we are the point of entry for a lot of social services because it's an easily accessible item, and we see people on a weekly or sometimes twice, 3 times a week basis. So we build a lot of trust. I'm constantly on the phone with Emily and her caseworker saying, I need help with, this person needs help with. And at some point she said, wouldn't it be amazing if we were all under the same roof? So we didn't have to keep doing these 9 p.m. calls. And at maybe a month later, she called me and said, do you want to go to the York County commissioners and present a case to buy a building for the American Rescue Plan funds? And I'm like, the commissioners? What do you mean? She's like, the county manager. I'm like, I didn't even know we had a county manager, but yes, I'll go.
I'll talk to anybody about funds.
Sure. So she and I presented, she really led this charge. If you don't know Emily, she is one of the more brilliant humans around. And we presented this idea of a social service collective where all the agencies are still maintained independently, but working on the same campus. And somehow 3 meetings later, we were awarded enough money to buy a building in Kittery on a 2-acre lot.
Congratulations. So cool.
Thank you. And then since then, Good Shepherd has seen this vision. They gave us an incredible grant that allowed us to do the pre-development of this work with the engineers and the architects and our capital campaign. And so now Emily and I are working, we're in the midst of a capital campaign, but we're working to build this campus. And so far we have our CAP program coming in with their WIC and outreach worker, and then hopefully growing their programs. Fairtide's housing is coming in. Their administrative office's Footprints is going to move to a full grocery store model and build a commissary kitchen for our nutrition and cooking classes and prepared meals. And I'll definitely be calling up to you guys, Hannah, for advice. And then we have general assistance coming out of the 2 town halls in this region. We have fuel assistance coming in, hopefully some veteran services. Our meetings this week have included Pantry Legal, which we're hoping to offer legal advice on a small basis. We don't have any MOU signed with the people that I'm about to mention. We have medical and mental health access. We have a couple of big providers looking to offer services in that point of entry. Adult ed is coming in. Seacoast Outright, which is an LGBTQ plus programming, is coming in. Tax support. We're going to use every square inch, put it that way. The big picture is we're looking at poverty as a whole, and how can we solve poverty as a whole. And I think it's bigger than Fairtide. It's bigger than Footprints. It's bigger than any of these services. It's really about helping individuals navigate a system that's broken and helping individuals navigate that path out of poverty with all the resources they need with case management and comprehensive and holistic care. So I think our goal is to share in each other's missions and then shorten the line at each of our own agencies, and then really to help the individuals who navigate a system that's really difficult to when you're working full-time, raising a family, getting kids to practice, and then trying to find your way to the WIC office, the food pantry, general assistance, or wherever it is you have to go. So that's really what we're building. We are predicting to break ground in November and open our doors next August.
So exciting.
October. Yes, it's super exciting. We've had a lot of support in the state, and we're really excited about the impact it will have, not only on the individuals seeking assistance, but on the nonprofits who are collaborating in this shared space for the benefit of our clients, but also our overhead and costs as well.
Megan, you're just giving me an opportunity to get back on that MAMP soapbox. I tell you, I'm so excited. Kelly was really excited to have you guys on and talk about Mainspring and the work you're doing at the food pantry. And I'm just gonna say it. Innovation starts with the nonprofit sector. I love it. And people, you know, I've been talking with other people about this idea of how much we need community hubs in Maine because we don't have a formal public health infrastructure. And once again, what is the nonprofit doing? We're figuring it out on our own and building it right from the ground up. And you and Hannah and you and Emily are all pointing to this really innovation that I think is what drives this society. So there you go. Amazing. You're so inspiring. Before I have you, I need to let you go because I have a third guest that I want to get in, but what would be your tip for advice for if there was an organization out there saying, I want something like that in my community?
Well, I think my advice would be don't listen to the doubters, because a lot of the barriers we face for the people who doubted us. Do we really need this? I don't see poverty in our community. Oh. My question to that is always, what are you looking for? And people can't answer that, right? When you ask, I don't see poverty.
Good for
what are you looking for? It's always a great question. So keep moving past the doubt. Like, can you raise that much money? And there's so much doubt about the misperception about the individuals that we serve. And so a lot of education, I would recommend doing a lot of education about the individuals that we're serving. Study other models. I visited so many food pantries throughout Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine on a myopic level. And then Emily and I are part of a national nonprofit center. It's an incredible organization, NCN it's called. We ask 1 million questions and of all our stakeholders, not just the nonprofit center network, but also of our municipal government and the individuals we serve and our volunteers and our boards. And I'd say just build an incredible team, solicit the support of your community. And I think I would leave it with two things. One is the system as it currently stands. It feels, this is opinion, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it feels really broken. And I feel like if tomato plants aren't growing in a garden, the first thing a gardener does is change the soil. And that's how I feel about the system of individuals navigating social services. They're not getting out except in extreme circumstances. They're staying in this low income bracket. And we need to change the soil. And that's what I hope Mainspring will do. And Emily and I both feel this resource is as critical as a fire station. It's something that you may not need, but you're certainly glad your community has and your neighbor might need. And I'm really glad that 4 houses down last year, a house burned down. I'm really glad we had a fire station in our town. And I'm really hopeful that Mainspring will be as critical and a vital resource. And so I invite anyone down to visit and see if we're right or wrong. Who knows?
That's really inspiring, Megan. Thank you so much. And Debbie, I see your question in the chat. Are there similar efforts in rural and remote parts of the state? And I think that there are, but I'm not gonna answer it today. I don't actually have the full answer, and I can see that Megan might have some thoughts there. So or Hannah. So maybe in the chat you guys could have any thoughts for Debbie, Hannah, and or Megan, but I really need to move on to Chris. So thank you, Megan. And I'm going to ask Chris O'Connor to join us all the way from Denver, Equality Community Center. How are you doing this morning, Chris?
I'm doing well, Jen. Thanks so much. I've got a little bit of a raspy voice, so my apologies.
Oh, that's okay.
Actually spoke. Yeah.
That's totally fine. What were you? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Oh no, I'm at the National Conference for Centerlink, which is the national organization for LGBT centers across the country. And so we have an annual meeting. And last night's reception was sponsored by Stoli. So that's combined with a 7 a.m. Meeting. I'm like, all right, we can do this. And I have not had coffee yet, so I'm hydrated in the Mile High City.
Okay. Well, we're really
Yes.
grateful for you taking the time to start your morning early and to tell us about the Equality Community Center. Can you start out by giving us a quick synopsis for those who may not be familiar with what you're doing? It's a really exciting, unique program.
Yeah, thanks so much. And we're so grateful to have the opportunity to join everyone this morning. The ECC, as we call it, was founded as a nonprofit organization, all volunteer led back in 2015. And it was really the group of people that formed this organization were mostly folks who had been really invested and involved in the LGBT movement in Maine for several decades. And at the end of the marriage equality, when we won marriage equality finally in 2012, the LGBT community collectively went through what's next. The organizations who were in the movement, what are the next priorities moving forward? And there were a lot of things that came forward in terms of work on behalf of our trans community, working and prioritizing LGBTQ plus youth, elders, and also looking at issues of homelessness in our communities, food insecurity, just so many things that amplify when we're looking at, further marginalized communities. And so two of the things that came out from those conversations about priorities and what people were really hopeful for as the movement moved forward were a community space, some form of community center, and housing for LGBT older adults. And there was just a recurring call for that. And one of the things that the ECC looked at and the people who were forming this organization looked at was those were two things that none of the current organizations that were doing LGBT advocacy and programs and services had capacity. It wasn't in any of their missions to work on community center or housing. And so that was really where this group saw their niche to fit in. And so they started organizing and they started grassroots conversations across the community to start really thinking about, is there need, what is their true interest, what are the needs in the community if we were to work towards this? And they started really painting this very inspirational vision for what a community center could be. As again with all marginalized communities, we just face relentless attack. And in Maine specifically, we have this thing called the people's veto, and there's this constant efforts to take away the things that we fought so hard for decades to win. And this idea of physical space that no one can ever take from us is something that was at the core for our community to have a space to organize, to celebrate, to mourn, to collaborate, to figure out. And so they started down this road. And in 2016, one of the what was called phase one of the ECC was to really look at how, if we're going to go down this road and we're going to eventually build something new, and what there were still a lot of questions about what it would look like and how it would come to fruition. But there was can all of these organizations exist under one roof and function together? These were organizations that some never had office space, some never shared office space. And there's a little bit of an ongoing with nonprofit organizations in general, this scarcity mindset of resources, and are we competing for the same donors? And so we launched in 2016 what I call the gay real world experiment, where we brought 6 LGBT organizations and put them into one space and see how it works. Is this a model that could work? At the time, I was a development director for Equality Maine, and we were one of the tenants in that space, and it was just an amazing experience, and we continued to grow. So I will try and fast forward because our history is exciting, but I want to make sure we talk a little bit more about where we're at today. So as the organization kept developing, a clearer vision came to the forefront of what was going to be called phase 2, and that was going to be building a new building, and it was going to be a shared multi-purpose retail space, community center space, office space for the organizations, and housing all in one building.
Wow.
And we had a piece of property that one of our board members was going to donate to us, and so we were working towards that. We were all ready to go with a capital campaign, and I want to remind folks, I say we, but this was all our volunteer organization working for years. I came on board as the organization's first full-time executive director in the past year and a half. So at the point of doing a feasibility study and getting ready to launch a campaign, and then the world went to shit. Pardon my French.
That's okay. That's okay. You can call the pandemic whatever you want. You get a pass.
Yes. Well, and so, as I think every organization did, paused and said, and then, about 6 months in, where are we going to go with this? And at that time, we had the opportunity to buy a building. The building that was actually next door to the parking lot that was being donated to us, that actually ironically is in every rendering of this new building that we have kind of grayed out. It's the original Maine Savings Bank on Casco Street in downtown Portland. And with the gift of from one donor, we were able to purchase that building for $1.1 million.
Wow.
And so in the middle of the pandemic, we bought a bank, and then we were faced with about $2 million of renovations. And the building is 22,000 square feet. And this is kind of where I'll go into next. We had to launch a capital campaign. And so we're in the midst of that campaign. We're about 3/4 of the way, we're actually a little bit over 3/4 of the way towards our goal. And we have opened our doors in June of 2022. And with the building. Thank you. With the 22,000 square feet of space, it gave us this really unique opportunity to really think about how do we expand the scope and the mission of the ECC. And so under the umbrella of our mission as being an equality-focused, equality-centered community center, we were able to invite in other allied social justice-oriented nonprofit organizations. So we just hit full capacity in the building. We house 16 nonprofit organizations. from Equality Maine to Maine Transnet to cross-cultural community services, which is working with our immigrant refugee communities, Combined Maine Cambodian Community Association, sexual assault response services of Southern Maine, Through These Doors, Democracy Maine, and so it has become, we have the Kindling Collective, which is an outdoor queer gear library, and it's just fun. And so from office space to a coworker suite where organizations can rent cubicles, to then shared office space or shared workspace. And so we have event space, meeting space, and our primary focus is to centralize operations for all of these organizations and provide them everything that they need to function at a below a reduced rent. And so collectively, all of these organizations are helping us bring this vision to life to support our community.
That's so exciting, Chris. And I'm so into this. And as always, I could talk to you for a lot longer, but I have to wrap up. But if people are curious about the space, can people come and see the space? Like how can people who are curious engage with what you're doing?
Yeah, we actually have a fall open house on Monday, so that's a great question.
Oh, tell us about
3 to
that.
4.
When is that?
Yeah, it's this coming Monday, 3 to 4:30. It's all of our tenants will be there. We'll offer tours. And if you cannot, if you can't make it during that time, please just reach out to me, and I'm happy to set up a time. We're open to the public. We're now working on developing ourselves as an LGBT community center, and looking at hiring staff to develop our programs and services. We've been really focused on the space. Folks can also rent our space. Nonprofits can rent. We've got an amazing event space and meeting space. Eventually, we'll have some more space for conferences. The other thing that I just want to, 2 things quickly, if I can, plug that the center also through Maine Transnet, we were able to offer space in the original vaults of the building. We bought a bank. We're like, what do we do with the vaults? And we were able to donate that space, and Maine Transit has opened a safe and affirming thrift store for the trans and non-binary communities. And so it's called Safe Combinations, and it's been a wonderful addition for our community. And then the next phase, which is phase 3 of our development, is we are working towards using that property that we have donated to us next to the building to build a 54-unit affordable housing complex for LGBTQ plus older adults.
Wow. Wow.
So
amazing.
we're in the midst of that. Yeah, our hope is to break ground this summer, assuming, fingers crossed, we have our application in for funding to Maine Housing Authority. So if you can all send good vibes our way, we're going to continue our growth.
Absolutely. I'm going to trust that everybody on this call is as inspired as I am by the work of Hannah, Megan, and Chris. This is really, really cool. This is the stuff that gives us hope, right, folks, when there's a lot going on in the world and we can all get maybe a little bit under a gray cloud or more. You guys are just doing the work that keeps me up. It keeps me getting going, and this is really great. Really quickly, thank you all for being with us. I wanted to mention to everybody before you go 2 things. One is that we have a shared space tool on our website now. I'm desperately looking for my notes here so I describe it correctly. We launched a shared workspace finder in collaboration with the Sewell Foundation, Maine Initiatives, and the Maine Philanthropy Center, where we sent out a survey to find out what kind of spaces people were interested in sharing. And so that's on our website, and it's intended to help connect organizations like you guys seeking office space with those who have space available. And also to connect organizations who want to group up and do cool things like Hannah, Megan, and Chris. So please take advantage of that. Use that. Thanks again to Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. And I'm asking a favor, especially for all of you who are MAMP Connects fans and super fans, is we need some help getting the word out about our first in-person MAMP Connects in December 15th. It's going to be in the morning. We're going to keep it all about networking and connecting and finding out about giving each other a chance to meet each other in person. So please help spread the word. It's going to be a morning of coffee connections and conversations. We have Gabriela Alcade from the Sewell Foundation and Julia Trujillo from the Department of Economic and Community Development already planning to be there as some of our guest speakers. And a quick shout out to our sponsors who have already stepped up to the plate to help with this event, because they're as excited as we are about connecting and innovating in the nonprofit sector. Androscoggin Bank, they're going to be doing free headshots, folks. And Kennebec Savings Bank, Whipflea, Devon, woohoo, you're right here. M&T Bank is going to be providing some awesome coffee for us. Bulos Company, Camden National, First National Wealth Management, Northeast Bank, Norway Savings Bank, Roundtable Technology, York Part-Time Comptroller, and Town and Country Federal Credit Union. Oh my gosh, everybody loves MAMP Connects. Now I need your help getting people there because it's going to be a great morning. Everybody stepped up because you guys are inspiring every day. I love you all. Have a great Friday. Bye.